Hi, I'm Christine Heenan. Welcome back to the Flagship Studio here at the JP Morgan Health Conference. I'm delighted to be joined in the studio this afternoon with Michelle Werner, the CEO of Alltrna. Michelle, when you were here in the studio last year, you talked about 2024 being a year when you promised some data, and boy, did Alltrna deliver. Tell us about the first-in-its-kind data that the Alltrna platform served up in 2024.
So we really did deliver, and I would say 2024 has really been the most productive year in Alltrna's history.
It's really exciting to see.
It is, and I'm really just delighted on behalf of the team and everything that we've been able to accomplish. So as you know, what we're doing at Alltrna is engineering tRNAs that can address hundreds of different genetic diseases by looking at those common mutations that span across diseases. And we've presented data in 2024 that really demonstrates that concept with 2 preclinical in vivo mouse models.
Walk us through both of them.
Sure. So one of them is a methylmalonic acidemia mouse model. And what we've been able to demonstrate is with a single dose of our engineered tRNAs, we've been able to restore protein rescue up to over 40%
wow.
in that population. And as you know, it's a really difficult disease. And those patients exhibit symptoms at a very young age, and clinicians really think that only 1 or 2% may be enough to really clinically ameliorate that condition.
Wow.
So to see over 40% in MMA has been really impressive for us.
And the second program? The
second program that we also demonstrated protein restoration in is phenylketonuria, or PKU. And we were
able, for our audience, PKU suffer from?
So there's lots of different manifestations of these disease. Patients have to stay on a really difficult diet to manage those conditions. There's often cognitive difficulties as well. And really what you're looking at is different crises that patients end up going through, which are really trying to be managed. So in this particular disease, clinicians are looking at wanting to see 2 or 3% of the phenylalanine or PAH protein.
Okay. What did you see?
And what we saw in our in vivo mouse model for PKU is a 7% increase in protein.
Wow.
But what's actually even more interesting than the 7% rescue of protein is what we saw with a biomarker reduction as well. So phenylalanine is the biomarker that's measured clinically in these patients, and we demonstrated a 76% reduction in Phe levels, which is really encouraging and brought these mice back into a range that we believe clinicians are really trying to manage their patients to. So,
wow.
Yeah, so it was really encouraging for us to be able to demonstrate that our engineered tRNAs can work across multiple disease settings. And with these being rare genetic liver diseases, our first clinical programs would be in rare genetic liver diseases. So to demonstrate that in 2, and then we actually do have a third model, but we haven't presented that one yet, really speaks to the ability for a single medicine to be used across multiple diseases.
And the liver is so hard. It's just eluded so many other therapeutic modalities to date. So obviously with these results, you're sort of heading toward the clinic. Talk about what you see for tRNA medicines and how that's going to play out, since it's a different modality.
It is, exactly right. And so with the novelty of the tRNA, that, unlike other genetic approaches, which must take a disease-by-disease strategy, we really think that a sophisticated novel development technology is also going to be really important. So, for example, basket trials are used prolifically in the oncology space and have led to a number of approved oncology medicines where you take patients that have different diseases, but they're all identified by their common mutations and treated in the same clinical trial. We could use the same approach with a tRNA and really address many diseases at a time. And so,
how do regulators think about basket trials?
Yeah, so the reality is so in oncology, very common. There are some basket trials that are also in the rare disease space, and we are already interacting with regulators. We started that last year. We're continuing that this year. When it comes to rare diseases, even regulators are starting to talk about really needing a many diseases at a time strategy in order to tackle the 10,000-ish different genetic diseases. Because if we keep doing it one by one, it's going to be forever before we have innovations for each of those conditions. And honestly, patients don't have that time to wait.
Yeah, they can't wait.
They can't.
2025 is a big year ahead. I have seen you zooming around the JP Morgan conference, lots of meetings. What are you telling investors, prospective partners? What has been your forecast for 2025 and where the platform is going?
So we're really at a tremendously exciting inflection point for Alltrna. So with a bulk of preclinical data in our wheelhouse right now, really shifting this year into the IND-enabling phase and starting to build a small but meaningful team that is going to be focused on our first clinical entry. We're going from a purely research-based, discovery-based organization to now also a development-based, clinical-based organization.
Do you have a rough time frame for your entry into the clinic?
So maybe this time next year, Christine, you and I will be having a different conversation. Great. So let's see about that. But it's a really exciting time.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for joining us. Michelle Werner talking about what's ahead for tRNA medicines, what's ahead for 2025 for Alltrna. Thank you so much for joining us, Michelle.
Thanks so much, Christine.